Hey guys, welcome back to Ehlke Art, and today we are gonna do a movie themed. We are going to do the one and only Miles Morales.
Mrs. Ehlke here along with Aaron. Aaron was loving the Miles Morales vibe, so we decided to try to paint him. Today we used gouache paint, but you could also use tempera paint or acrylic paint, or you could just try to draw in color too. Although it's tricky to do the red on top of the black, which is why we went for paint. So hope you would enjoy this video and see if you can do your best to make a Miles Morales Spider-Man face. All right, thanks so much for watching. And if you like these videos, what should they do?
You should like down below and subscribe.
All right. As we work today, we are using gouache paint, but you could use acrylic paint or tempera paint would work well too. The biggest thing is that we're going to be starting with black, and you want paint where you can do light colors over dark. So watercolor, for example, would not work very well. We also have two round brushes that we're going to be using, a bigger one and a smaller one, but use whatever brushes you're comfortable with. All right, we're gonna start with our bigger brush and we're gonna go right into the black paint. And I'm gonna start with a circle, and then I just wanna kind of gradually make it bigger and bigger and bigger on my picture here. You can dip water with gouache, tempera, or acrylic to kind of make it spread easily. So we're gonna go ahead and add a little water to make it kind of so it's easier to spread. And I wanna kind of get it to the point where it's taking up a good amount of this paper. Now the paper I'm using is painting paper. It's a little bit thicker than drawing paper. This is 90 pound, so it's kind of like a cheap kids paper for watercolor right now, but it works with other painting mediums too. You could also use like a construction paper, and that would work well too. But I'm just trying to get my circle kind of bigger and bigger and bigger. Notice I'm a little bit high on my paper, so it's not right in the middle, but a little bit up. This is going to be for the top part of the head, and then we'll add a little bit more for the bottom part of the head of the Spider-Man mask, Miles Morales mask. So we can kind of build that up. Okay, so here's my main circle. Right now it's all just filled in with black paint. I can kind of smooth out my brush strokes if I don't want them to be kind of so wild. You can go back over them, make them a little bit neater. Basically a big black dot.
Dot, yeah.
Okay, now I'm gonna go down. So I've got about maybe 2 fingers from the top and 2 fingers from the sides. I'm also gonna want 2 fingers from the bottom. So I'm just gonna make a little mark here in the middle. But instead of just making this an oval, I want it to kind of come down and be a little bit more narrow for the face. So I'm gonna kind of fill in like this to make it look like a narrow face. The face mask is pretty narrow for the bottom section. It goes down to the chin here, and so it doesn't need to be quite as rounded. So I'm going to go ahead and get that line in there, and then I'm going to just fill it in with my black paint. Get that nice and solid. And I want to make sure that I get all of the white covered in so that I've got a nice black painting of this mask. Keep it simple so far. At this point too, I want to go ahead and smooth my entire outline. So if there's any rough areas, you might want to take your brush and just smooth over them all the way around so that you get a nice smooth outline. So like kind of up here, if there's rough areas, just get a little bit more paint and then kind of smooth over those rough areas so that you don't have anything like any blobs like sticking out. So you may want to kind of do that all the way around, Aaron.
Yeah.
To get nice smooth lines. Yep. And just make sure you're using enough paint and water. That'll get you smoother lines for your outline. All right, just the basic head outline now. It's nice and dark. If the black isn't covering that well, maybe it's a little too thin, you can kind of go over it again and make sure it's nice and dark. Dun, dun, dun. This has been one of Aaron's favorite characters for a while now, Miles Morales. He likes the story. He likes the movies and stuff so far about Miles. So he was excited to do this for a project here.
You betcha.
Nice, looking good. Now at this point, we may want to go ahead and let the paint dry before we go in and add other colors. I mean, we could start a little bit, but anything that we do right now would mix with black, making it pretty dark. I think maybe I do want to go ahead and I'm not even going to rinse my brush. I'm going to go in with a little bit of red and just kind of get a basic outline of where the eyes are going to go. So if I'm in the middle here of my face, I want to think about kind of where that bottom of the circle was that we originally drew. Should be maybe right about here. And I'm just going to make a little red mark kind of where the bottom of that first circle would be. Yep, so I just went right in with the red. You don't even have to wash your brush. We're just gonna kind of throw this in. That way when we're ready to paint the red brighter, we'll at least have something to go off of. And then the eyes kind of go up at an angle. So I'm just kind of sketching them in right now. Anything I'm doing is mixing with the black, so it's really dark, but it's also very forgiving. So if I make a mistake, it's not a big deal. So I'm gonna do that while the black is wet so I can just kind of get that in. And then once everything is dry, the red will show up a lot brighter. So I'll put 2 lines like this. They go pretty high. You could probably even bring yours up a little bit higher. Yep, and even way up here. And then they kind of circle around on the side and then curve back in on the bottom. It's kind of like an alien looking or a bug looking eyes.
Well, it is a spider. He's Spiderman.
There you go. Good point. So it's very dark right now. You might not even be able to see it that well, but I just wanted to get that in while the black is wet because it'll be more forgiving. All right, I'm gonna let this dry and then we'll come back and really try to make these colors pop. Okay, so we have let these dry a little bit and now we're going to try to make our red a little bit stronger. So we wanted to make sure to really clean our brushes out with water, and it also might be a good idea to kind of dry them off on a paper towel before you move into the red so that you can get as much paint as possible. We're gonna go ahead and get a lot of red on our brushes and start by just retracing these lines, and hopefully with the black dry, it'll be quite a bit brighter. Now with gouache, you don't want to over brush it because it can reactivate the black paint. So we're just trying to keep it, just put it on and move on type thing. So throw some paint on there and then move on to the next area. And we're trying to get these nice thick red lines at the top part of the eye. And then the sides go down the side of the face. So they kind of go right next to the side of the face. And then at the last minute, they curve back in towards the bottom. So they're kind of like sunglasses. And they're connected with this little line in between them. So we're gonna go ahead and fill those in with red, those lines Make them nice and thick. You can decide if you want them nice and smooth or if you want them a little rough. Either way, it doesn't really matter. All right, I'm gonna stop with this brush for now. I'm gonna put it in my water cup. And now I'm gonna switch to a smaller brush so we can get some of the smaller line details. And I'm gonna go in with my red, and I'm gonna start at the very top center of the head, and I'm gonna make a line that goes straight down. It's gonna go to the middle of the eyes, and then it's gonna stop. And if you actually wanted to be more accurate, Aaron, stop for a sec. Make a little loop right here before it gets to that line in the eyes. There we go. So it can go right down the middle. And instead of continuing that straight down, I'm actually gonna make two that kind of fan out to the bottom. So one of them is gonna go a little bit off to this side. And then the other one is gonna go a little bit off to this side. And again, you can decide how smooth your lines are. You can make them really smooth, or they can be a little more rough, more rugged. It doesn't really matter. It's kind of whatever vibe you're going for. All right, the next lines I'm gonna do are just gonna go out from here. All of them kind of angle towards the center of the face. So just kind of keep that in mind. As you're doing them, they should all kind of point towards the middle. I'm gonna add one there and one there on the sides like that. And then I'll do some that are straight to the side of the face like that. And then I'm gonna do another one that's kind of in between this line and the top of the eyes, right there. And then we'll do at the very top of the eyes, two lines. And then the last ones will go in between that line and that line. So we've got kind of a bigger space here on either side. We're gonna throw two more lines. Remember, they should look like they're coming to the middle, then kind of going up from there. So kind of draw those in like so. That's kind of the main face map. Now those are all of the lines that kind of lead into this vanishing point here in the center of Spider-Man's face. Now we need to do kind of the web lines that go around this way. So basically we're just gonna start towards the middle. We've got this one right here and this one right here, and we're just gonna kind of keep going farther and farther out from the Spider-Man's like eyes and center of his face. So I'm gonna maybe start by making a line right here and right here for the next wave, and then right here and right here for the next wave. And you kind of keep doing it until you run out of space. And I'm just using my little brush and adding more lines. And notice that when I get to one of these lines, it kind of bends a little bit. There's a little bit of an angle here, so it's not just straight across. So kind of keep that in mind too as you're working, to kind of turn your line a little bit to an angle as you hit a new line like that. You can make them super smooth again. You can make them kind of more rough, rugged. It doesn't really matter. It's whatever you want to do for your painting. We'll do the same thing on the bottom half of the face. So I'm gonna start maybe just by kind of mapping out where I want my lines to be along the bottom here. And then we'll make them kind of angled up to the sides to fill out this part of the face. Like so. And make sure to do the areas under the eyes. And if you want to, you can actually go ahead and do kind of a reddish outline of the entire face. I might kind of make just a rough outline for the head. I'm just using my little brush. You could even switch back to your bigger brush for this part, just to kind of give it a nice little red glow all the way around. And this line, I'm okay if it's a little rough. I'll just kind of put that in like that. And then at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and wash that brush out and switch back to my big brush. Now, once I get the outline done and I switch back to my big brush, I do wanna make sure my big brush is completely rinsed out. We are switching to white, and if there's any red left on our brush when we switch to white, what color will that make, Aaron? Red plus white?
Red?
Nope.
Oh. I don't know the color.
Red and white would make pink.
Pink.
So we don't necessarily want pink on our Spider-Man. So make sure you rinse out your big brush really well and then dry it off on the paper towel so that we don't have any red there, because when we switch to white, we don't really want pink. We want it to stay nice and dark, or nice and light actually. All right. Now we're gonna fill in the center part of the eyes. So we're using white paint for this. And if my red is wet, I'm gonna stay away from my red right away and just kind of work in the center part. And again, I'm just gonna brush it and move on, because I don't want the black to reactivate and turn this to gray either. I want it to be a nice bright white. So I'm just trying to kind of stay away from the red lines until the very end, and try not to pull too much of that red into my white. Or you could actually just let the paint dry and then do it. But I'm just excited to get this white in here, because that really brings the face to life here. Again, if you want smooth lines, you can try to get real smooth lines. If you are okay kind of having them rough, you can leave them kind of rough. Can kind of have a cool effect too. I'm just trying to fill in this whole eye area. You can see how I got a little bit of pink going because my red wasn't quite dry. That's okay. If it bothers me, I can always wait for it to dry and go back over it with more white. Either way. While I have this white on my brush too, sometimes I kind of like to add little highlights here and there, so you can kind of add a little bit of white maybe on some of the lines, just to kind of add a little bit of a highlight. Again, this is just kind of optional. That can kind of help make it come to life. Maybe I'll do a little bit on the top of the red part, just add a little bit of white. Like that. All right, I think that's about it for Miles Morales. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed painting with us, and we hope to see you again soon.